occurs when an overt threat of harm is intentionally presented by one person to another in order to obtain compliance. Overt threats include threats to job security and earnings, restriction of access in public spaces, moral suasion, bullying, harassment, humiliation, segregation, and condemnation. Despite a reasoned address to the medical fraternity, most, if not all, ethical grievances forewarned by our appeals have endured, eroding both trust in medicine and medical practice and presenting grievous bodily harm to healthy young persons who are now systematically denied the right to voluntary informed consent. We would like to share the powerful confession of a courageous vaccine injury victim whose testimony highlights the harms that result when healthy persons are subjected to injudicious medical interventions through coercion and a circumvention of informed consent. Many other healthy persons who are likely to benefit from COVID-19 vaccines have also surrendered their bodily autonomy for fear of societal exclusion, loss of earnings, loss of schooling, social pressure, or just harassment. We hope that this young woman's report triggers some compassion, conscience, and introspection by our citizens, as well as authority figures in governments and public health. Yes. So we're about to play a recording. It lasts about 20 minutes. It's a confessional clip of a patient who suffered from transverse myelitis. It's a rare complication. It's rare because it's not being recorded internationally, but it is likely much more common because these cases are possibly being swept under the rug. So this is one case that has occurred in Trinidad and Tobago, and it would have lain dormant and never come to the public's light if the patient didn't reach out to us. And then we would have given her some assurances that it is safe to come forward and that the story is of global importance. So we are about to play that recording. Shall we proceed?
You want to have it now? Oh, you want to? Audio. Is that audio Monday?
Yes.
Not video?
No. We can't. The patient.
Can't do video because she's afraid to come forward,
Yeah.
and she's also disabled now.
The patient is bedbound and she cannot make any public appearances. Right? She is paralyzed on her left side.
Where's she from?
Sorry?
Where's she from?
So that
No, I know what part.
Where?
mother,
Yeah. She's from the north. She's from the north.
She's 26 years old. She did not want to take the vaccine. She was healthy.
Yes, sir.
She loved her job.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Hold the microphone there.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Let me play it then. Shall I just play it? Because you will get her testimony.
Put it in the computer.
In the interest of protecting patient confidentiality, this patient's image will not be shown. She is a 26-year-old healthy woman with no medical conditions prior to vaccination. She was married 3 years ago, and until last month, she worked as a waitress for 8 years in a local restaurant. She has an identical twin sister who did not take the vaccine as yet. On October the 6th, 2021, she received a Pfizer vaccine which resulted in a life-threatening complication for which she was hospitalized for over a month. At present, she remains wheelchair-bound and unable to mobilize from bed without assistance. Thank you for sharing your story. So, you took the vaccine on the morning of the 6th of October. Where did you receive the vaccine and how long did the vaccination process take?
I took the vaccine at Larigón Stadium in Malwa, and I went there, I reached at the place 8 o'clock and received the vaccine at 9.
Did you want to take the vaccine?
No, I did not want to take the vaccine.
So what made you decide to vaccinate?
I did intend to take the vaccine for my job only because I would have lost my job, and that is my earnings because only my husband was working.
Did you have any concerns about the vaccine before taking it?
Yes, I had concerns because plenty of people overabroad who take it actually got sick, but I didn't think I would be getting sick like this. I had it is nothing to pass, but the way how I am now, it's very difficult.
Were you informed about any risks or side effects associated with the vaccine?
No. They didn't say anything.
Safe.
Yeah, I guess it would have been safe at the time, but I still had a little too mind on about it.
Before you took the vaccine, were you asked to sign a form?
When I was getting the card, the immunization card, the vaccine card, sorry, yes, I did have to sign a paper for it.
So in other words, you didn't have to sign before actually getting injected with the vaccine, but you had to sign in order to receive the card.
But we received the card first before we received the injection.
So you had to sign the card first and then get the vaccination.
Yes, I did have to sign first and then get the vaccination.
And did you read, was there anything to read before you signed? Did you know what you were signing?
To be honest, I did not read that little instruction on the day. She just said to sign and I signed.
Prior to taking the vaccination, prior to taking the vaccination, did you receive any counseling as to potential side effects or adverse effects or any sort of instructions as to what to do or how to behave after receiving the vaccine?
No, she didn't. We just had to wait outside. She let us wait outside for 20 minutes and nobody did come see us or anything. Or they didn't talk.
After taking the vaccine on the 6th of October 2021, how did you feel immediately after?
Well, for the whole day, I didn't do anything. I was feeling normal. I was feeling good. I was feeling healthy. We went to the beach. I did my normal chores. But I didn't do any chores. We had to find something to eat. We relaxed. And that was mostly it. We didn't do anything. I went home, sleep, and the whole day was good.
And how did you feel later that night? Because you said you were taking the vaccine, let's say around between 8 and 9 o'clock that morning. So by evening time, after you came from the beach and stuff, how did you feel?
I was feeling normal. We went and sleep one day, and it's the other day, the 7th, I was still good. I wake up normal. I do my chores. I wash. I cook, and I was good until the evening.
When did you first notice that something was wrong with how you were feeling?
It was in the evening about 6 o'clock when my husband had came home. I told him I was getting a pain in my neck and right behind by my shoulder. And I thought it probably would have wear off by the time, so we went and sleep about 8 something. And I went and just sleep it off. And then I wake up with a sharp pain about 1 o'clock in my neck, and it was running in my shoulders. And the pain was really bad, so I ended up waking him up to tell him that I was getting the pain still, and I went to take a Panadol. And when I went to take a Panadol, he ended up giving me Panadol. So when I went outside, I take the Panadol, and my left hand, it dropped already, and then was running to the right. So when I was sitting there and I don't take Panadol, my neck and my chest started to drop. And we went straight to the bedroom, and I lied on the bed, and I was crying because I keep saying something is wrong, something wrong. And he said, don't cry, don't cry. And by the time I was lying down, I tell him, Didi, my whole can't move my whole body. Call somebody. And that was it. Within 10 minutes, my whole body from my neck, go straight down, couldn't move. And I couldn't even move my neck either. And I tell him, go and call somebody. So he ended up calling his aunt. And he ended up putting on, changing my clothes. I tell him we had to go to the hospital, and he ended up changing my clothes. And he picked me up with the body and kind of went down the step. And he put me in the car and we went straight to the hospital.
Tell me how you felt when you realized that you couldn't move.
I don't even know how I was feeling. I was just like, why my body can't move? Something is wrong. I keep saying something wrong. Why is this happening? And I was just there, shocked, and I couldn't even breathe because he had to wait. Why is he changing my clothes? I said, I can't breathe. And he had to lift up, and my body was so heavy, not even as heavy as no. It was so heavy. He had to try to help me, and he leaned me up on the wall just so I could breathe on the right side, on the left side of my neck. What was where I was breathing, but my neck was falling to the left, falling to the right.
Did you have any other reactions, anything else going on? You said you were crying, you realized that you were paralyzed, you had no control. So, did you have any other reactions, like any vomiting or anything else at all?
Only after when I reached to the medical, the hospital there, then while the lady was seeing me after, then my bowels and everything started it was
Alright, so let us go back a little bit. So your husband got you into the car and you all managed to get to a hospital nearby. What happened at the hospital?
When I reached the hospital, the guy, one of the doctors came with the stretcher and they put me on the stretcher, and then when I went inside, it had a nurse. She came, and I keep saying I can't breathe, but she came with she documents, asked me a lot of questions about my name, my age, and where I'm from, and all those other things. And I keep saying I can't breathe. And then I told my husband, and I feeling I'm going to pass out. And when I did pass out, she tapped me, and I feel somebody tapping me on my hand and saying, don't do that here, you're faking. And after, when she said that, I was like, I tell her, I can't breathe. I keep saying I can't breathe, and she said, but you can curse though. And, you know, I keep telling her I couldn't breathe, and she didn't even care or nothing. So she ended up putting me on the side. After she told me to take the information, she put the chair on the wheelchair, the bed to the side, and she said the doctor will come and see me just now.
What were you feeling when you were waiting for the doctor, and how long did it take for the doctor to come?
It probably took a half an hour just for the doctor to come, and while I was there, my mom ended up giving me some Piriton and some Morbid, but the doctor come at the same time, and he was telling she, well, don't really give me anything, and she was like, you just see, make sure I'm drinking some, because in case I was allergic to anything, that's why she was giving me the Piriton. But while I was there, all I could study was to breathe. That's all I was studying, because I was having plenty problem breathing.
So, you're in the hospital, you're on a gurney, a bed, or a stretcher, and you're waiting to see the doctor. And could you move your hand? Could you move your neck? Could you move anything at all?
I couldn't move anything from the neck, go straight down to the feet. I couldn't move anything. They had to hold up my head.
Did you have feeling in any of the limbs? I mean, you couldn't move your feet, but were you aware that you might have had feeling or anything?
No, I didn't have no feelings at all.
Did you, at any time during that time, think that you die?
Yes, I thought I was going to die because the breathing was so bad. I thought I would have just stopped breathing because I feel like I was actually stopped breathing and I was going down. I was really going down.
Now, you said that you vomited. When did you vomit, and when did you lose control of, let's say, your bowels, and was it your bladder as well? Or, so you were vomiting, you lost control of your bowels and your bladder simultaneously.
Yes, after the lady done take the records of my name and stuff, and she was telling me to go to the side, I told them I needed to use the washroom immediately, and everything just started to come out. So by the time my husband picked me up and put me to it, I was done messing up myself already. And when I ended up finishing the bathroom, and I ended up vomiting as well in the dustbin.
Now, I understand that medical staff at the hospital thought that you were having a massive stroke, but up until this point in your life, you've been healthy, as you said. Do you have any diabetes, hypertension, or any type of chronic? This was a health center. You were then transferred to our main hospital via an ambulance, right? What happened at the main hospital?
Well, I did, while they were transporting me to the hospital as well, I did vomit in the ambulance as well. And when I reached there, I had to wait like about a little 45 minutes or so. I probably get through about 3:30 in the morning. And as soon as they get through, well, when I get through, they start to say about me one time, put on the IV, started giving me oxygen and everything. Antibiotics, everything they started giving me, take blood, everything they do. After all the tests and stuff, and they make sure they had given me a little medication or whatever, they sent me straight to the MRI room to see what was happening to me. And I went there, I must stay about 2 hours with the MRI. And they checked the chest and everything, the heart, everything they checked. And do a scan on the body, everything.
And after the MRI, what happened?
From the MRI, they sent me straight to, they ward me straight to the HDU. And they got me a bed there, and my parents come and they see me and stuff. But I didn't have the tube as yet in my nose.
You had a tube in your nose? Why did you have a tube in your nose?
To eat, because I couldn't eat anything for 5 days.
Okay, so when did they put the tube in your nose? After the MRI, after they put you on the ward?
After they don't put me on the ward and stuff, but it was done in the morning already, and the doctors came and see me, and they ended up putting a tube, the NG tube in my nose.
And did they tell you why they were putting this tube in your nose?
Because I couldn't breathe properly. If I had ate anything, I would have choked and it would have go straight to my lungs. So that's why they put the NG tube in my nose.
And how would you say you were treated at the main hospital now? Because of course you had that, let's say, disagreement with the nurse or dissatisfaction. So what happened at the main hospital with regard to the care that you received from the doctors, the treatment, the doctors and the nurses there?
The treatment was very good. I didn't have no problem with nobody. I didn't have no problem with doctors. The treatment very good, and they take care of me.
And how long did you spend in the HDU?
In the HDU, I spent 2 weeks, because in the 2 weeks, I started to regain strength in the right hand, and I was able to sit up, not much, but okay with the bed, and I had asked the nurse for me to feed myself, because for the 2 weeks they was feeding me, and I asked her for me to feed myself, and she was happy that I asked. So when she realized that I couldn't feed myself, that's when they decided that I'm no longer as bad as much, so they end up transferring me to the other ward.
Now, by the 10th of October, you had found out that the doctors were treating you for vaccine-associated transverse myelitis, which, had you ever heard of transverse myelitis before?
No, I did not know anything about transverse myelitis.
Did they explain to you what transverse myelitis is?
Yes, the doctor did explain after, but I didn't know anything about this, and he said it was kind of rare that out of 100 or so people just get these things,
Now, you said many of the doctors and nurses were very friendly and kind, and would you say that you were satisfied with the care that you received at the hospital?
Yes, I was satisfied with the care.
And tell us, how long did you stay in the hospital altogether? From the morning that you went in to the day you were discharged?
I would say it was about 37 days exact.
So you said that there was no wheelchair at the hospital to discharge you or send you home with. So did you get a wheelchair? Were you able to get a wheelchair?
Well, they say the hospital was supposed to provide you with a wheelchair, but I couldn't wait and they didn't have any, so my mom went and she purchased a wheelchair at some place where they sell those stuff, because that's the only way that I've been moving around.
And what about physical therapy, right? You came home, the doctor in the hospital had told you that there wasn't sufficient staff to give you physical therapy. So did they make any suggestions as to how you might access physical therapy? Because you're obviously unable to work, and the hospital, the public healthcare, could not provide it. So did the doctor give you any suggestions as to how you might do physical therapy? Did he make any suggestions as to what you might be able to do at home on your own? Anything at all?
Well, he said that I could sign up in the hospital to get therapy, but you're not sure, you're not guaranteed to get through when you come, because I can't sit too long, and he said it's not going to be a very long waiting process, because when you come there, you're going to have to wait, or even if you go there, it might not have somebody there to give me any physical therapy.
And why can't you sit for very long? What happens?
Well, the spine not too strong, because I was lying on for so long, the spine not strong at all, but now I can sit a little better.
And if you sit too long, what do you feel?
The spine does hurt in the back, down by my lower back, and my legs, because the left side of the legs don't move and it's still numb, it intends to hurt by the buttocks area and the waist.
How are you now, today? Having come out of the hospital, how are you today on November 27th, when this ordeal started for you on October 6th? Alright, so we're looking at almost 2 months. How are you today? Have you seen improvement? How is the left side of your body? Have you gotten any more mobility, functionality with the right side of your body? What's working better and what's still not working?
Well, no, yes, as a home, my right side is much stronger, and I try and work out the left side a little bit. The hand is moving much better than before, but not fully functioning. The leg, same thing, as trying exercise it. My dad will massage the muscles in the legs. I just get to sit up a little bit more on my own now and stand a little better, but by help.
Can you make a grip with your left hand?
No.
You can't make a fist, you can't hold on to anything.
Not with the left hand. I will make a grip and hold on with my right hand, and they will hold my left hand.
Can you come out of bed on your own by yourself?
No, I could just sit off of the bed on my own.
So tell me what happens when you need to go to the bathroom. Either for number one or number two or both. What happens?
Well, my mom, I would tell her because I could feel when I need to go to the washroom. So I would tell her, and she would carry me on the wheelchair, and we would stand and I'll go to the bathroom, and she would come back for me when I'm finished.
Alright, and have you ever had a situation where, let's say, if your mom got to you too late, I mean, do you still have control of your bowels, of your bladder, or you could have an accident?
I think I could still have an accident. I mean, it never happened because she always closed around, but I think it could still have an accident.
So, is it accurate to say that you are not sure if you have full control of bowel or bladder movements?
No, from a bladder for sure, I don't have any control.
Do you have any pain anywhere about your body these days? Do you get pain anywhere? I mean, you told me that if you sit too long, you start getting pain. But other than that, do you have any pain?
No, I don't have any pain. I mean physically inside, I don't show any pain because I don't really, because I'm happy and I don't show no pain or anything.
Well, I'm interested to know how you manage to still be happy despite this ordeal. Because I mean, you're 26 years old. This is tremendous what has happened to you. You still seem to have a really positive spirit and outlook. So, what does it feel like? I mean, do you have good times and bad times? How do you feel? What's the hardest part of your day?
Well, I just, to be honest, I mean, it don't happen already. I can't do anything about it, although I would just push myself to do the correct thing and just get better. That's all I'm focusing on, to get better, you know? And I mean, I doesn't cry or nothing, but yes, it goes because I think about why I went and take the vaccine. What could have happened if I didn't take it? I would have been good. But you know, I don't like when you get and cry and say, oh gosh, I could get good or nothing. I just try to be happy and stay focused on the positive side. And I know God has my back. And I will get through. And I will be better. You know?
The interview lasted for maybe over an hour and a half. Yeah, but we cut out some pieces and try to keep it as brief as possible. What were some of the other issues that really stood out to you?
Well, meeting this young woman and listening to her reasoning that she had misgivings about taking the vaccine. But she was urged. I don't want to say she was pressured. I don't want to say she was asked. I'm just going to say she was urged by her boss at the restaurant to get vaccinated. Now what is interesting is that restaurant where she worked is not a safe zone. They don't have in-house dining, so they will take away only. So you really have to ask, well, why was the boss constantly urging her to take the vaccine when the establishment was not designated as a safe zone? And I asked her this, and she said the boss told her that the police was harassing them, which I find strange. I don't know. I know that the police will check to see if people are complying with safe zones. But non-safe zones, I don't understand why there would be a need for police to harass. However, it could be true as well as it could be just the boss telling her that. But here we have someone who loved her job. I mean, she loved the job. Right? She's been doing the job as a waitress at this restaurant for 8 years. Usually people would move on from that, but she really loved her job. She told me she loved to meet people at her job. You know, it had changed since COVID, but she loved the job. And she took the vaccine only to be able to keep this job. Right? Now, had she not taken the vaccine, she would have lost the job. So it's a case of you're sort of damned if you don't, and here she is. Look at her situation when she has done it. Now, I asked her if the employer had made any overtures to help her with even the physiotherapy, because, of course, the physiotherapy at, I'm assuming it's Mount Hope, is not, you can't depend on it. So I asked her what was her salary, and she told me what her salary was. And I asked her if her employer had given her any money to help her as a form of severance. What they gave her was less than 1 week's pay to date. So we are in November. This incident started for her on October 7th. And to date, that employer has given her less than 1 week's pay. And it is the employer who urged her to go and get the vaccine. Now, what I'm interested in is that the president of the industrial court came out and said that, no, this would be against the law that we are forcing the employers can't force. But obviously, this young woman was coerced. It was a veiled threat, but it's at the bottom, at the end of it all, it's coercion. So, who's responsible for her now? Because if she signs, when she signed for that vaccine, she signed it and given Pfizer immunity. They are immune from prosecution. She's also given the government of Trinidad and Tobago immunity. So who's looking out for her? And it has to be the employer, because nowhere I know is there any law saying that, you must do this. So if your employer is urging you and letting you know, hey, if you don't do this, you're not going to have a job. But then, who's going to be liable? And in this case, I think perhaps we should start looking at employer liability, because the thing about it is, the government is not doing it. Nobody is taking liability. So here's this woman who may never get better. She may never get better. Okay? And who's going to take care of her the rest of her life? So from a very basic thing, this is somebody who could have been an NIS contributor to the system. Now with this disability, she's going to have to be an NIS dependent and would not have had the opportunity to make contributions into the system had she been helped. Right? Sure.
I'm just passing microphone to I think the cost of her physiotherapy, just to give you an idea, she needs to get about 3 sessions a week. And I think it's amounting to about $1,500. So, just her healthcare alone vastly exceeds her salary that she was earning, or she's not earning anymore. I find it to be unconscionable. For her to be in this situation. She's basically stripped of all ability to go and to enjoy her life. And she's a dependent. And as I said, maybe for 40 days, this case has languished in silence. I'm just passing over to sorry. This is again Mr. Ria Ramsaran. He's the patient's attorney. So I'd just like him to give his contribution.
Just to hear, I can say your name.
Good afternoon, my name is Riyad Ramsaran. I'm a practicing attorney in civil litigation. I was asked this afternoon to come and assist the setting up of a task group to advocate for persons who have been injured by the use of these vaccines. So the whole point of this group is really to set up and assist those who cannot speak for themselves. You will understand that the government seems, and the state seems not to be aware that these events and these side effects and these deaths are happening because vaccine or not. Our job, our task is to help inform the state that these things are happening and to assist to getting compensation, some assistance where possible. Because as you hear, this young lady could not get a wheelchair for herself. Now, my friends have said some things that I would not go so far as saying as to who is lying or not. But what I will say, every product that is sold out there must be fit for purpose and safe in use. So therefore, if a product is administered, it must at least pass the minimum requirement. It must not be recklessly given. So regardless of where the liability falls, the point is, this group has been set up to assist, and if anyone out there is in need, they can contact CTAG, they can contact Dr. Chief, Dr. myself as well, and the team and activities that work with us will work with you as well.
So we're about to wrap up. I just wanted to at least announce that we are establishing a COVID-19 vaccine injury support and advocacy group. So COVID-19 vaccine injury support and advocacy group. I know that there are many persons who have suffered from very mild injuries to things that are enduring lifelong injuries. And I think that you have a contribution and you have a duty as a patient who may have experienced such side effects to make it known to the wider community. We are very fearful, and we have seen that there is a culture of vaccine injury denial when it comes to these particular agents. And once again, I restate unequivocally that regardless of any approvals, at least 3 years of human safety testing must be completed before any pharmaceutical agent or any vaccine can be deemed safe and efficacious, particularly against multiple variants. So there is no way without this measure and this gold standard of safety, randomized controlled trials for 3 years can be determined safety. So persons who are experiencing side effects, they have a duty to come forward so that their cases can be registered as part of the statistic and can contribute to an ongoing risk to benefit calculation that will then be used to determine over the next 2 to 3 years whether or not these agents are truly safe and effective. And as a parent and responsible parent CT, I once again state that the evidence is simply not in favor of use for these agents in, as far as I can see, persons under 30. But this definitely should not be used in any person under 20. And here we have a 26-year-old who I believe cannot or should not have ever contemplated taking this vaccine because they could not have benefited from it, and the vaccine is not stopping transmission. So there's absolutely no clinical rationale for taking it. So please again, if you have any cases, reach out to us. You will see us online. COVID-19 vaccine injury support and advocacy group, Trinidad and Tobago. Reach out to us, and we will give whatever support that we can, whether it be clinical or legal, or just advocacy in general and counseling. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you all for coming this morning and listening and recording and hopefully communicating. I want to tell you that almost every time I go out into the public arena, I either meet someone who has had an adverse reaction of some sort or has had it in their family. So it is a lot more prevalent than we may think. But I want you all to consider one thing. We've already started to give boosters in this country. Okay? And from what I understand, they mixed in and they matched the vaccines. I know someone who took AstraZeneca's the first 2 shots and then took the boosters of Pfizer. What happened to this young lady? Could happen to any of us or any of our family. We don't know which shot or if the shot may impact us. We simply don't know. And in case you're not aware, globally, internationally, countries are ordering vaccines. I'll give you an example. Canada has ordered 30 million vaccines for 2022, 30 million for 2023, and 60 million for 2024. So these countries are planning to be vaccinating their populations for a very long time. I can't see why that would be any different here. And essentially, we have to ask ourselves, will the next shot, could the next shot injure us in any way? Because we're still not going to have any increased safety data. And as we might have read, one of the manufacturers, in fact the manufacturer of the vaccine that our subject took, just recently applied, did not have their safety data reviewed until 2076. Ask yourself, yes, Pfizer has applied to the FDA to not have the safety data or the data from their clinical trials made public until 2076. So I need you all to ask yourself, if these products are so great, don't you think that they would be touted, the benefits are wonderful? Why would they be trying to keep the safety data or the results of the clinical trials suppressed until 2076? I said, just remember, any one of us, any one of our loved ones could become the next person injured after taking a vaccine. How are you going to feel? If you were this person, what would you want? How would you feel?
I have one question. Stefan Rysen, you said it's the Pfizer vaccine, which is the vaccine that approved for children, right? The patient that you're talking about, or the victim of the injury, took it on the 6th of October, from what I understand, and then went paralyzed from the neck down on the 7th of October.
Yes, the 7th. Yes.
Right, and was in the hospital for, according to the recording, 37 days.
37 days hospitalized.
Okay, so considering that she took the vaccine that is approved for children, and the government is holding press conferences on a daily basis, did anybody on the COVID team, from whether it's Dr. Abdul Richards, Dr. Hines, Dr. Parashram, were they aware that this injury occurred? And if so, whether or not they were aware, what was the responsibility of the administration, who is pushing for more vaccination, in the context of reporting an injury of this nature to the public? Because you have to forget, if you have, even for adults, because she's 26, right? So if you have 4 vaccines available, you have Sinopharm, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer. If you report that this has been one of the injuries that occurred from this specific brand, then I might want to get vaccinated and try a different brand, because I might want to take the risk in trying a Pfizer. So what was their responsibility in the context of a pandemic? Informed consent in terms of informing the public that this injury occurred.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Pfizer has positioned itself as the designer vaccine, the safe alternative, the one that's approved for children, approved for children from 5 years. They're trying to talk to us that moment. But the fact is that if you go into PubMed, which is the medical database, Medline, or even Google Scholar, and you type in transverse myelitis and mRNA vaccines, you will see an abundance of cases being reported internationally. It's still considered, what you say, rare, but it's rare if a small fraction of the cases are being presented for the statistics, for correlation and statistics. In fact, I don't think, for example, this case here would have never made it would have never made the ledgers, would have never impacted on the statistics if the patient didn't come out. So you're right. As far as I can see, the chance or the risk of injury, of sustaining an injury like this, increases with every exposure. And the intention for vaccinating young and healthy persons is to prevent that person from transmitting the virus, which is, basically that's fading within 6 months, which would mean that you will have to vaccinate a child or a young person maybe annually, or more likely biannually for an indefinite period. And if the risk for every single exposure to the vaccine is cumulative, then you can only imagine what a 5-year cumulative risk will amount to. And we have seen additionally in circulation, that's the journal Circulation by Dr. Gundry, you can see that there is clear data emerging now that the mRNA vaccines are associated with a definitive increase in cytokines or other inflammatory markers that can cause injury to the endothelium. And this data is now emerging after there have been a very concerted effort by the part of the mainstream media and governments to hypnotize the public with this safe and effective messaging. Safe and effective, it's safe and effective. You just keep repeating it over and over. And I'll ask them, without the requisite duration of trial, how can you determine that? So now, with the duration of time, over the course of time, we are seeing the emergence of such injuries. We are seeing the data both clinically, as in a case like this here, or we are seeing the data emerge by way of immune studies that in fact the mRNA vaccines do cause inflammatory conditions and can damage the vascular endothelium. So I'm asking, how can we possibly expose, so Stefan, I agree with you, how can we in good conscience expose any individual who has a negligible risk of COVID-19 complications if they do contract the virus? And in this case here, I believe that this girl here, I see this girl, she's 26 years. I see her as a child too, as a healthy girl. And she's a twin. That didn't come out in the clip here that we showed, but she's a twin. She is an identical twin who, because of her genetics and because of her own experience with the vaccine, her twin should be exempt from taking any vaccines henceforth until we know that they have a safe vaccine, 3 years of safety data. And her twin is struggling to get an exemption. So what we have right now is that we have a convergence of forces by the government, by the medical fraternity, which remains largely mum, and also by big business, which is calling for the systematic exclusion of persons from public spaces. Recently, the heads in business called for vaccine passports for entry into supermarkets to buy food, vaccine passports into retail outlets, financial institutions like banks, and entry into malls, other public spaces, sporting spaces, and so on. So what we're looking at here is really mass coercion, and a complete dereliction in medical ethics. And it is being driven by non-medical entities, by persons who have no jurisdiction to prescribe any kind of pharmaceutical entity to any person. And it is being driven in this way. And this is absolutely an infringement. It is a shameless infringement in our medical ethics. And we cannot allow it to happen any further. The business community does not have a place in forcing or coercing or inducing any medical intervention into a person, into a citizen, about which they know nothing. So I can only ask that they cease these vaccines. As we clearly see, the data is not out as yet. If the business community wants to enforce these agents on their clients, on the general public, then perhaps there should be an earnest and honest discussion about liability. and compensation, vaccine injury compensation. So, yeah. Is there any further questions?
The intention is to sue the government?
Yeah.
Well, this could go to the lawyer. Is the intention to take the government to court?
The intention this afternoon was to expose the group's intention about the project.
Mhm.
So at least someone who's out there and is injured can come to someone to get some advice, counseling, some legal, medical advice as well. The platform here is not to discuss whether or not that particular individual is going to take action or not.
Okay.
She's getting good treatment at the hospital. She's getting good doctors treating her as best as they can. Thank God for that, and she's grateful for that. In fact, she loves her employer, and that same employer is not doing in-house dining still. The only reason he sought out to get his employees vaccinated was because of that pressure that she says was exited upon him. So the reality is, it seems to me that the government and the state and whoever else is pressuring the population to be vaccinated and ignoring any other alternative possibilities they may have for treatment, whether it's safe or not. That is outside of my specialty, so I wish we could back it up.
All right, no problem.
A support group is very important for these victims of injury after taking a vaccine. Simply because they have a gamut of emotions. A lot of the victims feel ashamed. They feel stupid. Why did I do this? They forget all of the peer pressure or the job pressure to take the shot. They get a stage where they beat up with themselves. In the case of our young lady, she could not even hold a phone to WhatsApp anybody. She had no function. So you can imagine she's going to feel isolated. Think of how isolated we all feel or felt during the lockdown. And still, we can't lie in any great numbers. We're thinking about who we can see for Christmas. So imagine someone who has vaccine injury where they're in bed all day essentially, or sitting in a wheelchair. This is somebody who has been active, right? So it's a whole paradigm shift for them, and they feel very alone. And we've had an increase of suicides worldwide since the pandemic started in the lockdown, okay? So mental health starts to deteriorate as well. So if these victims are aware that they are not alone, even if we only get that part to say you are not alone, there are others, that at least will buoy their spirits. And buoyed spirits help with healing. I honestly believe that this young woman is going to get better. Just from her attitude and her outlook, she's bursting with positivity, and I admire that very much about her. But there are others out there, I can tell you, I know many of them, and they feel alone. They feel like they're the only ones going through this, and they are ashamed to talk about it because they think people will just say, as Trinity do, rely on the do it. But a lot of us are taking the vaccine because we want to have our livelihoods. We are now faced with a choice. Take a risky shot or lose our jobs. And how is that is what is known as a false choice. That is no choice at all. And as Dr. Siriram said, it's pure coercion. That's
Wow.
Well, I think we're about wrapping up now. That's the second time I'm saying that. We have some, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know it's a kind of heavy atmosphere, but I think it's an important story to get out, and we really appreciate undivided attention. The least that we can do is offer some refreshments. So kindly join us if you like. We have some drinks and so on.
The new mom got up very early to prepare, having brought it up over